Welcome to the Tuesday night podcast of the Fantasy Football Buzz podcast. With us, as always, we've got Cyclops. We've got 2020. Guys, week 7 already. How is that happening?
It's amazing how quick it goes, right? Football season is here, and now it's like more than a third done. Oh, man. Like thinking about playoff fantasy football already.
I know. It's true. That's really sad.
It's interesting. With the new season, you'd say almost halfway there. Now it's more than the third with the 17 games. Yeah, it's nuts. It's week 7, unbelievable. And it is still crazy. Every primetime game, even the Dolphins game, which sucked for us, 9 o'clock in the morning, it sucked. The outcome was still a good game. It has been.
Is that a primetime game?
It's the only game on. It's nationally shown, so it's primetime. And that's all we're going to get. We don't deserve much more than 9 o'clock a.m. over the pond. But great games, including last night's game. Really, just been incredible football.
Yeah, it really was. And week 7 is upon us, guys, and it is filled with injuries. It is filled with bye weeks. I mean, to navigate right now what's going on, it would be tough enough with these bye weeks. But then you throw in the fact that every starting running back in the NFL is hurt.
Just about, yeah.
It makes things a lot more difficult.
Does it seem like there's more injuries this year, or is it just
No,
another year?
it's the same. No, it's the same.
It just seems like there's more.
Discussion every year. We always say it. We have this discussion every year, and it's the same. This is what it is. This is why I tell people don't go crazy with overpaying so much with fab money, because it's going to be
like for Mitchell.
At that, to me, that's still a good buy. I'm talking $80 for Mitchell. I think 30. Watch what happens in the next few weeks, hopefully. But yes,
and then you're for a few weeks.
You're like doubling down here.
No, because he hasn't played. He had one game, and their game script was terrible. Watch. I think Eli Mitchell is the real deal.
You've been saying that for like 4 years.
He hasn't for 4 years. You've been saying that since like 1972.
All right, I know. Just wait. We're gonna get down to week 13. And you'll be like, just wait. Forget Hasty. Forget Wilson. Just wait. Everything will be fine. You're like Kevin Bacon in Animal House. Everything's fine.
All is well.
All right, we've got a call coming in. Kenneth, how you doing tonight?
Oh, pretty good. Did y'all see the question of the night that I posted in the chat?
No, I did not. What is the question of the night?
Who would y'all consider to be the AFC and NFC best at this point?
AFC, NFC, what? MVPs?
The best in the AFC and the NFC right now team. What Kenneth asked. Right, as far as
team or player?
Team. You know team.
Oh, okay. Player. All right.
I got to tell you, it's a good – to me, the AFC, they're both interesting because, I mean, for me personally, there's 2 dominant teams that stand out in each. And in the NFC, how do you not talking about the Cardinals and the Cowboys? And between the two, yes, the Cowboys have lost one, but they lost to a very good Tampa team. The Cardinals look so good. I still think I'm going Dallas out of the NFC.
You don't think it's Tampa?
Really?
Honestly, I think Dallas right now would take Tampa. I really do.
Okay. Well, NFC, I've got to go with the Cardinals. You got to go with what the record says. I mean, it's not easy at this point to be undefeated. They have both the offense and the defense. Tampa has been shaky on defense at times. I know they're missing a lot of starters, but they've been shaky. To me, until someone proves that the Cardinals cannot be the team to beat, they are the team to beat. And, to me, it's going to come down to Cowboys, Bucks, Cardinals, and
Rams
and Packers.
And Packers. So I was going to say, and Rams too, but I was going to say after that really first week, like preseason game that Green Bay threw out there, they've been pretty good, and people are kind of forgetting about them. They haven't been dominating, but they're winning games. They're balanced. They're a balanced team. It's not just, the defense is great or the offense is great. They're very balanced in how they're winning, and that's, you look at that. But yeah, right now Arizona hasn't lost. So how do you go away from them? And Tampa has a loss, but that seems to what it's going to come down to is those 4 teams.
I'll tell you, the NFC looks so much stronger than the AFC.
I agree with you on Arizona.
Right.
I agree for a very different reason.
Okay, what's that reason?
What about the addition of one Zach Ertz?
Yeah, look, there's only so many pass plays that you can make on the team. There's only so many people that can score touchdowns. If it's not going to be Ertz, it's going to be somebody else. I'm not sure that Ertz really takes them over to a point where they're going to be unbeaten, they're a good team. They don't necessarily mean that they're that much better with Ertz. Are they better with Ertz? Probably. But are they that much better? This isn't the 86 of the past. Now let's talk about the AFC for a second. I got to go with the Houston Texans. What do you guys think? As we lose viewers one at a time.
They're better than the Dolphins, COmmish. I can
Even
tell you
though
that.
the Texans guy, I have to say the team to beat in the AFC is very surprisingly. I'd have to say either it's actually one of two teams, either the Ravens or Chargers.
I go Ravens or Bills at this point.
Ravens or Bills.
We have to remember that with Buffalo, it's not that their team is invincible. It's just that they have a very easy schedule. They've played, for the most part, an easy schedule. And I think that we're going to see a lot more wins from the Bills because they still have to play the Dolphins again. They still have to play the Jets again. They still have to play the Patriots again. So those are wins. And they're beating up on teams. So you're going to continue to see that. But can they beat the top teams later on in the season when people are getting hurt and people are getting tired? I'm not saying they're not going to. I just think it's going to come down to the Bills and the Ravens.
All right.
I got to say, the way Lamar.
The other question I have is with Dak on bye, I'm needing to look for a QB that I can put in for at least right now.
Well, then hang on because we will be getting to that.
I have Heineke in right now.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that. As far as who you can pick up, I don't think Heineke is really the answer for this week, but we'll talk about that in a little bit on the show. We're going to get into the waiver. Thank you, Kenneth. We're going to get into the waiver wire this evening. We're going to talk about which quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends to grab now while you can. We're also going to talk about something Brad brought up, which was the all undrafted team. Who are the guys that were undrafted that really make or break your team now? Guys, let's jump right into these waivers, right? And we might as well start with quarterback here, because what do you do, right, when Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, Kirk Cousins are all on bye? What do you do? Well, you pick up Tua.
Right, exactly.
And that's not a homer decision, all right? We know what happened to the Dolphins on Saturday morning. We know that Tua looked very good, 329 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a bonehead interception, but Mahomes had more bonehead interceptions on Sunday. Doesn't make him a bad quarterback.
But they won their game.
But of course they won their game. I'm not, we're talking
fantasy-wise,
right? And who in fantasy are you going to pick up when you have people like this on bye? Look, someone can say, well, he did very well because they were playing against the Jaguars. Well, that's true. But guess who the Dolphins play this week? Like I say every week, play the quarterback who plays against the Falcons. Tua right now is a solid streaming option. He's got upside in week 6. If you have Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, Kirk Cousins, go ahead. Feel confident. You can pick up Tua. You should be fine. Another one to think about that was picked up, it was drafted, then dropped, then picked up, and then dropped, and that's Jameis Winston, right? Started out with a 5-touchdown game, and then he kind of disappeared. But before he went on bye last week, he had 2 straight 200-plus yard games. And right before the bye, he had a season-high 30 passes in the game previous. So he's back on that trajectory going up. So I think, especially coming in with this game against the Seahawks, Jameis Winston might be a good option for you. And now for a super, super deep pickup. He may not play this week. He probably will not play this week, but it's somebody that you might want to pick up if you have room, because you can then turn around and throw him on your IR if you need to. But supposedly, do you know who the Seahawks have been talking to?
Cam Newton.
Cam Newton. So Cam, if you have the ability to pick him up and stash him now before it comes out where he's working out or whatever the case may be, look, they're not happy with Geno Smith, and we don't know how long Russell Wilson's going to be out. We know he's on IR. Is Geno Smith the answer for the next few weeks? I don't know. But if you have the ability to grab Cam Newton, this might be a good chance to do it. Guys, what about running backs?
Can I throw one more? Can I throw one more in there?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, because I don't think this guy is rostered in a lot of leagues. He may have been picked up, but as a buy player, especially this week, what about Matt Ryan?
Yeah, for sure. Matt Ryan,
absolutely, if he's available.
He's had a few 300-yard games in a row. And that's without Ridley and Gage. Right. Now those guys are going to be back.
Yeah.
So,
he got back
it's
on
against
the
Dolphins. Quick.
Yeah, and he got back on the radar quick with a couple really good games. So, yeah, but if he's out there, grab him. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, let's talk about running backs. I think we all know, obviously, probably the number one waiver wire out there with, of course, Kareem Hunt going on IR. Nick Chubb already ruled out. The question is who between Dearness Johnston and Fenton is going to be the running back of choice. And what it's looking like, because first of all, Fenton's a rookie. Johnson has been in that situation before. Last year, he's had to come in to do it. So Dearness Johnson definitely, of the two, probably going to be your starting running back lead. You're between the tackles, first, second down guy. Barely rostered anywhere, of course. I mean, the guy's only had a couple carries.
And where did he go to college?
Where did he go to college? The U?
USF, baby.
Oh, he's a Bull, USF Bulls. I'm like, I didn't think he went to Miami. Look at that. But I'll tell you, last year, when Chubb and Hunt were both hurt, he had 33 attempts. This is over a game and a half, 166 yards. So he's averaging 5 yards a carry. So someone that probably your number one waiver pickup priority would be Dearnce Johnston.
And how much are you spending on him, Keith?
I thankfully don't have to go after him because I'm very happy with Eli Mitchell and Khalil Herbert.
Oh, you got Eli Mitchell. Okay.
I love my Mitchell. But if you're in need,
so basically our list later is Keith's team.
That's right.
So I think Dearness Johnson is actually going to have more points than Eli Mitchell this week.
Oh, I'm all over that with you.
Wait, who are the Browns playing?
Let's make it 10, not 1.
Depends on the matchup. Come on. Depends on the matchup. We'll see.
All right, we have a couple questions coming in before you keep going. All right, first we have from Travis. Do you think Dalvin Cook is going to start doing better?
I mean, he was hurt, so I'm not exactly sure what better would be. You mean, is he going to play and not be hurt? Because we don't know. Which is why
aren't they on bye this week?
Yeah, they are on bye this week.
So he has a week to rest. I think he's going to be fine.
He's the last person I'm worried about. Now, maybe I'm saying that because I also have Madison. But if you have Dalvin Cook and you don't have a handcuff or you don't have a backup, then you should worry because he has been getting hurt. Go ahead.
What do you do here? Travis's next comment is I have Taylor, Robinson, and Henderson Jr. also and Barkley. Like,
what?
Are you in a one-man league?
Yeah, seriously.
I mean,
Taylor, Robinson, Henderson are phenomenal.
Might have been a keeper league.
Could be a keeper league. I don't know, but we'd love to hear about that. How you got all of those guys?
Look, just to go back here, Dalvin Cook had 21 points week 1, 18 points week 2. Didn't play week 3. Week 4 he got hurt, had 5.4. Didn't play week 5. Week 6 this week he had 24 points. He's fine when he plays. The question is, will he play every game?
Right.
And I don't know that there's a running back in the league so far. Well, no, so far there has been, but going through the whole season, is there going to be a running back that plays every game?
You know something?
Najee Harris, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, Derrick Henry. He's usually pretty reliable.
I don't know. I don't know. He makes it through the whole season.
But there are certain running backs that you can almost count on at some point are going to miss a few games, if not longer. And here's a rule of thumb: two rules of thumb. If you take Dalvin Cook, you best get Alexander Madison. You need to draft him. If you take McCaffrey, you best get last year was Mike Davis or Chuba Hubbard. Those are things that are extremely important. You have to draft those guys. They're that important. No, so that's a rule of thumb you should live by. All right, so moving on.
Hold on, easy. Kenneth asked, I'm looking at Carr versus the Eagles or Winston versus Seattle.
I like Carr versus the Eagles.
I like Carr versus the Eagles, yeah.
I think we're all on board with that. As far as that goes, the
matchup is better for Winston, but it's whether or not you can trust him. I think the ceiling is higher for Winston, but I think you're going to get more consistency out of Carr.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement there.
And the Eagles are scoring, which is good. You want to be a shootout in that game.
Yeah.
All right, so your next second running back here, because we know Cleveland, they run some more, and certainly with Baker Mayfield's injury, with his shoulder injury, your second running back you might want to look at would be the other guy there, Demetric Felton. What you're going to see out of this is you're probably going to see a first and second down dominated by Johnson, and you're going to see Felton coming in and getting those catches. But he's also going to get some rushing attempts as well. Look at how successful they've been with Chubb and Hunt. You're going to see something very similar with Ernst Johnson and Demetric Felton. Another guy who's out there in a lot of leagues. In Yahoo, only owned 11%, ESPN 12%, and that's the rookie who's finally out of the doghouse, Ramondre Stevenson. Now, again, these are guys that there's not a lot of terribly good running backs out there, but if you're in a pinch, you had Hunt get injured, you got bye weeks. Stevenson had 11 carries against Houston, only 5 this last week against Dallas. But again, that was a game that was a lot of throwing because they were scoring back and forth. But he's getting nice yardage, 23 yards. But what I like about Stevenson is he's also getting some catches. So he's out there. He's getting more and more. Belichick's trusting him more out of the backfield. Another interesting guy to pick up. Can't believe I'm going to say this, but once again, it's a bye week. There's going to be a lot of people out there scavenging for running backs, but Mark Ingram. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is, first of all, he's available everywhere. Only 33% owned in Yahoo and 22% owned in ESPN. But what you're getting out of him, again, is a bye week fill-in. You're not going to find people out there that are going to get you 20, 25 points. But his usage is there. Last week, 18 totes. The week before that, 16 carries. And he had 73 yards on the ground last week. Granted, not getting a ton of receptions. But if you have a running back out there in a pinch, because you got all these guys on bye or hurt, you can get someone that's getting the rock 15, 16, 17, 18 times a game. It's someone that you're going to consider picking up. Again, not getting a lot of receptions, but it's someone to look at. Lastly, let's talk about Seattle. We know Carson's on IR. Alex Collins, something to monitor, looked very good in replacement duties of Chris Carson, but he is now banged up, and there's a question mark as to whether he's going to play. So we know Rashard Penny is coming back off of injury, but this is his first game back. So what I've been reading is that if Collins can't go, I wouldn't expect a big workload from Penny. I think the guy you're going to be looking at is DJ Dallas. Again, this is a guy just to stash if Collins can't go. It's not a great matchup against New Orleans, but when he filled in last year, when Carson was down, he did admirably well. So if you missed out on the other guys and you just need someone, I like DJ Dallas, and he gets the grabs. He had 5 targets, 5 receptions on 33 yards. So not a lot of running backs out there.
Penny's coming back, but he may as well be on San Francisco. I mean, this guy can't make it through a half.
It's true. It's true. It's incredible. His entire career.
A word of wisdom here. Don't get cute. It's kind of like you want the shiny new car instead of the old reliable one that's been getting you everywhere. If you have people, if you have your big hitters on bye and you have some guys that you've been stashing on your bench, don't be afraid to start them. If the matchups are good and they're there, don't feel that if you don't get D'Ernest Johnson, you've got to go and you got to grab Ingram or you got to grab. I mean, what Keith is telling everybody is there's not a lot out there, but if you absolutely have to take somebody, these are some guys to consider. But these are guys that aren't going to necessarily make or break you. For example, I'm actually starting. I have Cook and Robinson on bye. I'm starting Gaskin and Darrell Williams. Now, those guys are not necessarily guys you want to start each week. Maybe Williams in a flex.
Williams looks good, though. Yeah.
Williams look good. But my point is, I'm not personally going to go out and try to get one of those guys. I'm going to try to hope and pray that Myles Gaskin has a good matchup, might have a good day. Forget Gaskin for a second. I'm just saying whoever that running back is that you've been stashing on your bench, they're probably going to be better than these guys coming up. Especially in Cleveland, you've got a Thursday night game. They're going to be splitting the running back duties. I'm not suggesting that you can't have D'Ernest Johnson have a great game. It's very possible. But if you have somebody a little more reliable, don't get cute, is all I'm saying.
Right. I agree.
So
and we didn't talk about guys like Khalil Herbert, Devontae Booker, because these were guys that were picked up last week. So we're not going to go over that.
Right.
Yeah.
So going back to Travis, he has another question. Do you think Gronk will come back this week? It's part one.
Yeah.
With Schultz is on bye and Gesicki on waivers, should I pick him up or take the L? Maybe that's a 0 on my tight end slot.
Right.
My team is pretty stacked to drop anyone.
So Gesicki's solid.
Gesicki, yeah. I mean, Gesicki has been solid. A lot of people drop Gesicki early, so he's available on a lot of waivers.
Here's the thing, though. Gronk came off. Gronk is now upgraded as far as his health goes. He's no longer considered out or, they didn't put him on IR. I think at this point, if Gronk plays, you keep Gronk. If Gronk stays unhealthy, Gesicki will probably be gone by then, which is what you're saying, right? So you would have to drop Gronk in order to pick up Gesicki. I'm not sure if you want to do that. You might want to see who else is out there, and if Gronk doesn't play, grab somebody else. You're not necessarily taking an L in that spot. You just won't get somebody necessarily as good as Gesicki. I don't know what you guys think.
I'm just curious who is the worst player on your roster. What he's saying is roster's stacked. He has nobody to drop. Who is the worst player on your roster?
Yeah, I mean, you also don't want to carry 3.
Well, did you see his list of running backs? I mean,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, something.
All right. Then he said, and should he pick up Michael Thomas? If he comes back good and healthy, he's been on my eye. Well, the question is, if you don't have a place for a tight end this week, who are you going to drop from Michael Thomas, right?
Unless you can go straight to IR.
Right. And see what happens.
Michael Thomas is not going to be ready until Christmas, they're saying, or until at least Christmas time. And at that point, you better hope you can make the playoffs without him, and then hope that he's going to be good enough for you to help you with the playoffs. Because that's what it's going to come down to with Michael
Holy
Thomas.
cow. He says that his lowest projected player is Justin Jefferson.
What?
Okay. Tell us about this league, Travis.
Yeah. Okay. What is this? This is like the last guy that had Robinson, Henderson, and
that's same person.
Oh, it's the same guy? Jeez.
Yeah, it's his team. Wow. So tell us, Travis, you got to tell us, is this a keeper league and you've been like getting these players?
How do you feel, guys? But tell me how you feel about the idea of dropping Gronk for Gesicki. Is that something you would do?
Right now, if Tua stays healthy, he has, he locks in on Gesicki. Gesicki,
he does. He has
his security blanket, right? He goes to him. He's a big target. He gets open. He's got good hands.
Big target. Look, there is no pattern in Miami. That's was a big target because Will Fuller is out and Devonte Parker was out. That's why he was more of a target, because you're dealing with Wilson and Waddle, and Preston Williams was out.
The problem is Brady has now found Brayton Howard. He's really starting to.
He's doing that. He's only doing that out of necessity
because Gronk's not there. Right. I know. Yeah. Well, and he's got incredible chemistry with Antonio Brown now.
Okay, so this makes more sense. It's a family league with 6 people. Okay, this is making a little bit more sense. Okay, we like it. That's good.
Okay.
And he said he missed the draft and it auto-picked for him. It's a nice auto-pick. You should be thanking your computer.
I'm not dropping Gronk for Gesicki. If you do, it's not that big of a deal. I just think that Gronk has shown him before he got hurt that there is that chemistry that has not gone away, and it's going to continue.
Right. Okay. Well, there you have it.
And there we have it.
All right, so let's jump to wide receivers for waiver pickups. Who's out there? Who's going to be on bye? I mean, what's happening in the wide receiver?
Yeah, so there's some people out there so there is someone on bye that if you can get, and he's rostered in about 60% of leagues, so he is owned, but if he's available, and he's a little bit further down my list, but I'll go with him, is Cole Beasley. Okay? He has 3 games over 10 points and 3 games under 10 points. But his next 3 opponents are Miami, Jacksonville, the Jets, and then Indy, actually, for the 4th one there. So he's on bye this week, I believe. But after that, I mean, he's got some smooth sailing after that. And Buffalo is going to come out and just slinging the ball all over because they're going to, especially after that loss last night, they're going to want to take that break and then come out and pounce on people. So they're not going to take any game for granted coming up. They're not going to sit on a lead. They're not going to do anything after that loss. So he's a guy, if he's available in your league and you have a spot for him, try to get him on. Now, a couple guys coming up, all right, Peoples-Jones in Cleveland, right? With their running backs hurt, what does that do? It creates some more opportunities for extra targets to the wide receivers. His last 2 weeks, what does he have? Oh, just 9 catches for 171 and 2 touchdowns. Not so bad.
Yep.
And 9 of the next 11 weeks, they do not face a top 10 pass defense. Okay, so it sets up nice for him. OBJ has kind of been non-existent in that offense for the most part. And you got those running backs hurt, it just opens up the door. So he's a guy to look at. He's not, this fancy name, but, well, it is a fancy name, but not in the fantasy realm, but someone to target to get on your team. AJ Green, right? He's back. He's back. He's full force. He may be on a lot of rosters already, but if he's not, because he's kind of this guy that I think people kind of look at, okay, he's not going to do it this week. He's not going to do it this week, but he keeps doing it, right? And he has 4 of the last 5 weeks. He's got between 11 and 16 points. So he's a great filler player who you can almost count on to get you 10 to 15 points. And, pick him up if you have a bye week, right? Yeah. There's so many teams coming on bye for the next couple of weeks. He's good. He's getting more targets than
Hopkins.
Hopkins there. So that's a guy. Now, Bateman, right, in Baltimore. He finally plays. He gets 8 targets, only caught 4 of them, but he is a guy that they've been waiting for him to play. You have Hollywood across from him. He's going to have open looks. You have a quarterback that the linebackers have to stay up on. He's a guy that I think they're going to try to get more involved in the offense. If he's out there and you have a spot, definitely try to get him on your roster. So there you have Darnell Mooney, who gets picked up and dropped and picked up and dropped and has a good week and a bad week and a good week and a bad week. But, again, as a filler player, I think, he's a good potential opportunity to have on your roster. So there's 5 guys right there that I would, there's obviously more guys out there that are going to be available.
There's a lot of wide receivers. And I am telling you that the people that still talk about this 0 RB draft bullshit have no idea what they're talking about. When you look at the Calvin Ridleys, DeAndre Hopkins, Terry McLaurin, Mike Evans, DK Metcalf, Godwin, AJ Brown, all these guys, Robert Woods, all these guys that were projected to be these great receivers. So you could forego getting these running backs in the early rounds and just go after these top name receivers, are all hurting right now.
Mm-hmm.
When you sit here and you listen to 2020 tell you that your options at picking up a running back right now are Mark Ingram and Felton, it's not Keith's fault, and I'm not putting Keith down. I'm saying That's what's out there.
That's what's available, right?
But when you can sit here and say, hey, you can grab Cole Beasley, who's got 500 targets, or you can grab Peoples-Jones, who has 800 yards in the past 2 weeks. I'm just saying there are people. I mean, the wide receivers are deep.
Mm-hmm. And Commish, we were talking about this. It when we had our draft that we did, it plays to my strategy of in the 5th, 6th, 7th rounds, you grab Cortland Sutton, Deebo Samuel, Tyler Boyd, all Robert Woods. You grab all these guys that are high-end wide receiver twos, and one of them, and Sutton's starting to really do it, and Deebo is really starting to do it. These guys are outperforming a lot of the wide receiver ones. So, and this is how I drafted literally in all 7 leagues. I stacked up on those running backs early, and I grabbed a ton of those wide receiver twos at all different levels because some of them are going to pan out. And then you have the Kedarius Tonys and the Christian Kirks that are coming out of nowhere. Unfortunately, Tony's hurt, like you said, and they're just doing phenomenal. Tim Patrick are just doing it for you.
There's another look at Devonte Parker. He's only rostered in about 50% of leagues. Now he's injured. Now they have Tua back. Now they go against Atlanta. I mean, things kind of set up for him if he plays. Right. So there's another guy. I mean, there's a list of guys. To go. Okay, Travis said he's got one more, guys. I forgot to ask, and I think it's ridiculous offer, but my brother wants to trade Deebo for Swift. I'm not for it, but he keeps insisting. What do you guys think? It would be a good idea, or should I offer him someone else? So
if
he
wants
Jefferson Deebo for Swift,
right out.
Yeah, and also the list of running backs that you have, Swift isn't cracking your lineup, right? You said you had Henderson and Taylor and Cook and all these guys. I really don't think Swift is a break unless you start like a 4 running back league. Maybe I don't know. But it's not a terrible trade. I mean, Swift has been solid. He's, averaging 15 points a week. He's pretty solid. But, depends. Maybe you throw, he throws in some beers or something and you do the trade. I don't know.
It is family. It isn't a terribly unfair trade. And with Kittle being injured, Deebo's been the guy. He's been the alpha there anyway. So he's giving up Swift to get Deebo, correct?
He wants to trade Deebo. My brother wants to trade Deebo for Swift. So he's giving up Deebo. He's getting Deebo and giving up Swift. Yeah.
Yeah. With your ridiculous embarrassment of riches at running backs. I mean, it all depends on who do you have going with Justin Jefferson. You said he's the worst of what you got. I'm dying to know who your receivers are. But that's a nice pairing, Deebo and Jefferson, to give up Swift. I agree.
You said Jefferson is his worst. So
that's what I'm saying. So what else? Who was there? He must have Adams or Tyreek Hill. I mean,
so Jason here says you can always find a waiver wire wide receiver. Running back is the most important position in fantasy football.
That's right.
Running back is the most important position because of the consistency of injuries and finding those diamonds in the rough, right? Because there's more wide receivers.
Because each team has 3 wide receivers.
Right. Yeah. And it's just a numbers game, right? And running backs, the most important when you can find that guy who's going to stay healthy or find that backup who, a guy that, is a injury risk. Yeah, I mean it's very obviously very, very important to anchor your team. Okay.
All right. Tight ends. Brad, since you've been talking about wide receivers, are there any tight ends to grab for people that
I mean, there's one that's interesting. It's not a great option.
Like if somebody has Knox or Schultz, right?
Yeah, Evan Ingram. Okay, he's 30% rostered. I was kind of looking through and trying to find somebody to pull out of the group. He's averaging 5 targets a game. So if you need a fill-in, he's going to get targets. And he's got Carolina, KC, and Las Vegas coming up over the next 3 weeks, while while your players are on bye, or you maybe need to pick somebody up. So, Gesicki is rostered in 80 to 90% leagues. So the fact that he was available for, someone that asked earlier isn't going to be in every case. But Ingram's kind of down the list a little bit. You know he's going to get some targets. It's just if you can get lucky with a touchdown or with a, one of those 40, 50-yard receptions, and then the other ones fill in, and he has 3 or 4 receptions for 75 yards. Maybe a touchdown.
I think AJ Green and Evan Ingram did a Freaky Friday thing and switched bodies. And I mean, AJ Green's coming back. Evan Ingram, who was just tearing up the NFL, and I don't think it's because of Danny Nichols not being able to do anything right now, but it's very interesting. But yeah, I mean, every week I keep looking at Evan Ingram like, okay, this is going to be the week. This is going to be the week, but
it just doesn't do it. He's getting targets. Yeah. It's just the production's not there. Yeah.
Right. But, you're looking deep into like a waiver wire pickup to maybe he'll get, 5 receptions instead of 3, and he's got 60 yards, 70 yards, whatever it is. And you hope. So that's my one tight end.
Okay.
Actually, wait. There is one other out there, and I actually have him above that, and that's Ricky Seals-Jones, who, with Logan Thomas out, and he's not coming back yet.
Well, we talked about him last week.
Yeah, but he's still only rostered in 29% of leagues.
Yeah, if he's available, definitely grab him.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's not picked up. It's crazy. So I know we talked about him, but he is widely available, and he is a favorite target for Heineke.
You have him on your team, don't you?
I do.
All right, guys, listen, we want to hear from all of you out there. Give us a call, 772-800-BUZZ, or ask your comments in the comment section like Travis has and Jason has and Kenneth has. Let us know what's going on with your team, what questions you might have. Who are you looking to pick up? Who are you looking to drop? What's your story? In the meantime, we're going to jump in, and we also want your comments on this next segment, which is the all undrafted free agent team. Who are the guys that are now performing? If you had to put a team together of only people that most likely, we have no way of knowing, that most likely were not drafted, who would they be? Now, we each prepared, a list. We don't all have to go through each one and name 3 quarterbacks and 3 but let's just throw it out there here for quarterback. Who would be your nomination for quarterback, Keith, for the all undrafted free agent team?
So for QB, I put in Joe Burrow. He was not drafted in a lot of leagues because no one knew what his injury. I almost did Matt Ryan because he also was not drafted in a lot of leagues, and he's been coming on. But Burrow just looks so good. His connection with Chase is legit. I'm going to lose that bet, even though Waddle is not far behind him. But you got to love Burrow and what they're doing in Cincy.
Okay, so my quarterback on the list is Derek Carr. And we know that he started out quick, and then he kind of slowed down, and he's coming back again. But the funny thing is with quarterbacks is most likely the top 10 quarterbacks, if you were to rank the quarterbacks on an average per week, were all drafted. So now you're starting to go into the 11, 12, 13, 14 picks. Right. Derek Carr is number 12 right now, with averaging 22 points per game. Right above him, Sam Darnold. But I think Sam Darnold was actually heading down, which is why I'm picking Derek Carr. Didn't make that top 10. All those top 10 got drafted. People not drafted, I'm going with Derek Carr. Okay, what about running backs, Brad?
So running backs, I mean, there's a long list, right?
We'll pick one.
You got Chuba, right? Because obviously McCaffrey gets hurt. I mean, I guess. I mean,
most people probably drafted Hubbard.
He was drafted, I think, a lot. Though,
because he was his backup. No, I guess you're right, but at this, well, if it's not him, then I'd probably go right now with Herbert.
Okay.
Right in Chicago because Montgomery got hurt, and obviously he wasn't drafted, but he's I think got the most upside and the best games as a fill-in running back for the most part so far. So I'm going to go with him. I know it's only a short sampling, but I would go with him.
Okay. I got to tell you, for me, and this is a guy that I don't think was on anybody's radar. Nobody was talking about drafting
Eli Mitchell.
No. Yes, Eli Mitchell. That's correct. No, but of course it's Cordarrelle Patterson. I mean, this guy was and no one was thinking about this guy. I don't even people knew what team he was on. And
people still don't even think he's a running back.
He's not. And in Yahoo,
I know,
he could be a
but
running
I'm just
back or a
saying.
wide, right? But if you look at what he is doing week after week after week, and what he's about to do to the Dolphins defense is going to be sickening. But this guy, for me, is the free agent MVP. If you got him and you picked him up early, you are riding his back all the way right now, and he is by far just tearing it up for the free agents for waiver wires.
And Jason chiming in now wants to give us his undrafted free agent pick as quarterback. I assume you're talking about Kirk Cousins. He did go undrafted in a bunch of leagues.
Yes, he did.
So
he was right out of that top 10, like you were saying. People that didn't take second quarterbacks, or he was late in people's second quarterbacks. But yeah, he did. That's true.
Yeah,
and
I actually picked him in. I picked him in a couple leagues to back up Dak, and I have them both on bye.
Right.
Stupidly not realizing that, but I love Cousins.
So if you have
Kirk Cousins is actually 10th in the league right now in average per week, right below Dak Prescott. So
having a great season.
He really is. So that's a good call there, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
So if the people listening, if you have players, what we're doing is kind of going through players that were not drafted that are having good seasons, and
it's the all undrafted free agent team.
Right.
You're putting together a team of undrafted free agents. Who are you starting? Right. So right now, who would you say our top quarterback was? I had Carr. Cousins, I think, is actually a better pick than Carr.
Yeah.
I'm willing to switch. I agree with Jason. I think Cousins would be my quarterback. Running back, it has to be Patterson right now, right? Patterson. Let's talk about wide receivers now. Who are your wide receivers? I can tell you who I was looking at. It has to be the number 5 overall wide receiver by average with 17.7 points per game. Mike Williams, guys.
But
I think he was drafted. I think he was drafted a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely drafted. Yeah.
So Emmanuel Sanders was my second. So, Keith, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, because Sanders, I even drafted him in a couple leagues and stupidly dropped him early because he wasn't doing anything. But, Williams was drafted. But you're right, Commish, far outplaying his ADP, but he was picked up. And I know Cyclops has a piece of that. Yeah, but Sanders definitely, because he went undrafted in a lot of leagues. No one knew how he would do in Buffalo, and he is just, for the most part, outplaying Diggs. He really is.
Well, has there been, forget Diggs for a second, has there been a shift? Because Diggs wasn't doing well earlier in this, not well, but he wasn't getting the targets earlier. Cole Beasley was. Now we're starting to see Cole Beasley's targets drop as Emmanuel Sanders' targets increase, right? I think we're starting to see a little more chemistry between Allen and Sanders than we did with Allen and Beasley.
And Diggs is coming on. So it's really looking like the Diggs-Sanders show. Beasley still getting his, but it's Sanders. It's week after week. He's not getting a ton of grabs, but he's getting the touchdowns. He's getting the significant catches. So I really like him as that number 1 probably wide receiver free agent. Now, the second guy, I'm curious, who do you have, Cyclops, as your number 2 wideout? Of all the free agents that were picked up.
I mean, a guy that's been pretty consistent this year. He had one down. As a matter of fact, Jason just mentioned him, and I was going to go with him. Actually, my first guy is probably, and I don't think he was drafted in very little, was AJ Green.
Yeah,
I talked about him before.
He was drafted at all,
right? People worried about him. He's, he was really the thought of the third option on that team at wide receiver going into the season, right behind Kirk, even though Kirk has really fallen to probably 4th, behind Hopkins and Moore. They're all messing around in there. But AJ Green, I mean, this guy's been very consistent and very good. But I'll mention, let's see, Jason put in here KJ Osborne.
I disagree with Osborne.
No, he hasn't done much.
Osborne had a good week this past week.
He's had 3 good weeks.
No, he hasn't. Look at the numbers. He has not had a pretty good week. Especially if you're talking about other guys that weren't necessarily drafted. I mean, was Henry Ruggs drafted in a lot of leagues? There are people out there. that on an average per week. Look at Jamison Crowder. Nobody talks about that. He's averaging 11
because
points
he's a Jet.
What about Michael Pittman? How many people drafted Michael
Pittman?
Yeah.
No,
and then I dropped him early.
So, I would take all these guys on my all-star team above KJ Osborne. Hunter Renfrow, he was having a few good weeks, but I still would grab these other guys ahead of it. So let's talk about tight end.
Wait, hold on. Before we do it, I have one more guy that's really interesting.
All right, let's do it.
It's Kedarius Tony. What he's done in over 2 weeks and one series has been incredible. First of all, nobody can stay healthy in that Giants offense. And it doesn't look like he's going to be out that long, but my God. And it's funny, Commissioner, I remember you talking about him before the season started. Did the Giants find something in this guy? I didn't know much about him. You must have watched tape on him or something out of college.
I'm a Gator fan, and I watched him in college.
He is unbelievable what he does in the open field. He jukes people out of their shoes. If he is out there, you must grab him, stash him until he becomes healthy, because this guy in the first series of this week 6, he had 3 grabs for 32 yards in that series. He was ready to tear it up. I love this guy. He's on my free agent team. Just got to get him healthy.
Okay, what about tight ends?
Tight ends, people don't it usually goes 10 deep or however many are in the league. There's not really a lot of backups. I mean, as far as tight ends, maybe it's at this point it's Ricky Seals-Jones, right? He's the number 10 tight end. I think most
you
of the people
take that over Knox,
over Dalton Schultz.
Oh, Knox.
Or Schultz.
Schultz was not drafted
right now. Knox is the 4th rated tight end.
Yeah, Knox
12.2 points, fantasy points per game. Right under Knox is Schultz, and only because Jarwin will take a few of those catches away from him.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I gotta go with
and
Knox.
then Knox, right? Then Schultz.
So can we recap here? Quarterback. Who did we talk about?
Well, we all different. You liked Carr.
Well, no. I'm willing to go with Cousins here. We should all agree Cousins, and then Patterson for running back, and then who were we taking for wide receiver? Were we taking AJ Green? Were we taking Osborne? Who were you guys?
I think Green's going to be the most consistent guy in there.
Emmanuel Sanders for sure. Right. Now we're back on.
I was looking at him. I was looking at Sanders, but I think he got drafted in a lot of leagues.
I don't think so.
I don't know about that. I think what was happening. Let me refresh everyone's memory here. The guy that was being taken from Buffalo was Gabriel Davis, because he had a really good preseason and everybody was jumping on the Davis train.
He also ended the year last year really good.
Yeah, and people weren't drafting Cole Beasley because they weren't sure, because of the vaccination issue, whether or not that was going to be a problem. Emmanuel Sanders was not really on anybody's radar at that point. I'd be surprised if anybody drafted Sanders.
I actually drafted him in our league, but then I dropped him because the first couple of weeks he didn't do anything. And then he blew up, of course. So, yeah. And then for tight end, I think we agreed it's somewhere between Schultz and Knox. Exactly.
All right, very guys. Cool. So Sunday. Well, I'm sorry, you're going to say something, Brad?
No.
Okay. So Sunday will be our starter show to determine whether or not we suggest that you put somebody in. We also go through the active inactive list as it happens live on the air at 11:30 a.m. is when we start getting some more of those active inactive players on top of all of the people that are on bye, on top of all the people that are injured. We learn about more Sunday morning right before you have to set your lineup, and we are here to help guide you through that lineup. We usually do it around 11 a.m. Eastern time so that you have time after the show to fix your lineup and then go to that sports bar and get your wings. So it should be
I'll tell you, we might want to do just a really, really quick start sit for Thursday. There are definitely some interesting players there. We got Denver taking on Cleveland. I personally like Courtland Sutton. He is just getting a ton of targets. He has more passes thrown to him of over 20 yards. I think he's second or third in the league. So I really like Cortland Sutton. In Cleveland, I mean, I would consider starting Dearness Johnson again, only if you absolutely have to. Possibly Donovan Peoples-Jones. I don't know. Again,
with
only
all
if you
of
have
the
to.
with all of the injuries and all of the bye weeks this week, right? And you have a guy on your team that's going on Thursday night. I had this issue last week, and it cost me the week. Cost me the week. I lost by 5 points. I switched him because Hopkins was sick, and I didn't know if he was. I literally 3 minutes before the game, I put in Godwin instead of Hopkins. I would have won the week because of the point differential, but I didn't know. So with all of the, with the injuries and not knowing and everything, if you have to make that decision, you got to go with the Thursday night guy.
That's right.
Yeah. So Noah Fant's going to be most likely a start for all of you. I think Keith, you're right. I think it's going to be Sutton. Depending on what running backs you have or don't have, obviously with Williams and Gordon sharing carries are still startable for Denver. The Cleveland defense was exposed. Everyone was talking about how they were impossible to score against, and I think we saw what happened to them this past week. So there aren't too many people. I'm not playing. I wouldn't play Odell Beckham this week. I'm not saying he's not going to do anything, but he's not on my radar. Baker Mayfield's not on my radar, whether he plays or not. So, Donovan Peoples-Jones might be a good option. I think you talked about that earlier, that depending on what kind of games, if it's going to, they're going to have to throw, it's going to go to him. But yeah, so that's what I have for Thursday night.
Agreed. I agree. All
right, guys. Well, listen, I really, we all really appreciate all the comments from Jason and Travis and Kenneth and all the people that take part in the show by either calling in or commenting. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you guys Sunday morning. And it'll be game day, and it's exciting. And let's go do it.
Sounds good.